Are you tired of putting hours and hours of practice, dedication into the game of golf, but just not seeing the results or your scores getting better? I do have a few things that I've learned along the way that I wanted to share with you that I think would be useful if you're trying to improve your game. When I think about where my improvement really started was I started to figure out that the expectation I had of my game versus what I was capable of were worlds apart. Like they were so far apart from each other. This kind of distorts my reality of the game and what to expect when I go to play golf. And I think a big shift in my mindset was realizing that, I have the ability to shoot in the low 80s, but I can also shoot in the 90s if things aren't going well. And I think that mindset shift really just helped me realize that, hey, my game is not perfect and, things are gonna go wrong. And if they do go wrong, well, I know where I'll end up scoring. And what that did for me was I just sort of started to relax a little bit. I started to play way more consistent golf. And although I haven't really been able to put the time into the game in the last 12 months that I would have liked to, as I started to improve and my capabilities improved, then my expectations, I kind of raised the bar a little bit more. And this kind of helped me get better incrementally. And it's not a huge overnight success. I think for us golfers, we're looking for the shortest way to get better. And sometimes that can distort your expectation on yourself and, without accepting your abilities and kind of playing within them. And so this was a huge mindset shift for me. And I'm glad that I figured this out. And I think that it's a really useful reminder for me even today. To illustrate this point a little better, I'd step, even today, I'll step out onto a par 5 and it's a, 550 meter par 5. So that is going to take two of my best shots, like absolute best shots to get on the green. Now, that's my expectation, is that I will get on the green in 2. But my capability, well, it's inconsistent. And my capability says that my perfect drive and my perfect 3-wood is probably not going to show up every day. So when you start to look at the game like that and you look at your abilities like that, things change and the perspective that I've got on it is different. And so what that allows me to do is approach that par 5, that 550 meter par 5 with the thinking that, okay, well, 2 perfect shots might get me there, but 3 good shots will definitely get me there. And so I now play the rule of percentages, and more times than not, it puts me in a good spot. Now, my game has been struggling. If you've been watching my YouTube channels, I'm struggling at the moment. I'm simply talking about the things that I'm thinking about, that I'm trying to apply, even though my swing is not at 100%. The other thing that I came across was that I found myself really focusing in on someone else's game and trying to mimic a lot of what someone else was doing and not focusing enough on mine. More times than not, what I found myself doing was trying to play the hole that I was playing or play the course that I was playing like that person was. So let's say that person tees it up from the right-hand side of the tee box. Unconsciously, I was just teeing it up from the same place as these people. And not being present to understand, I'm a left-hander, they're a right-hander. They fade the ball and I draw the ball. Those types of understandings really help me sort of, again, accept my capabilities, but also make better decisions that would help me score better in golf, because ultimately that's what it's about. I think when I started to realize that, hey, you're not that person and you're not a great putter, but you do drive it well, or you're not a great approach player from 150 out. I'm good with a wedge in my hand. So those types of things just really help lower my handicap. I started scoring more consistently when I started to accept some of that. So the third thing was definitely around practicing more from 100 in. And I think this was where I started to see the most improvement in my game. It wasn't going to the driving range and hitting 100 balls. Probably 90 of them would be full swings with, a longer iron, maybe an 8 iron, but I would probably save maybe 10 or 15 balls for a sand wedge and a pitching wedge. So what I started to do when I realized this was I left all my long irons at home. I simply took an 8 iron, a 9 iron, a pitching wedge, a gap wedge and a sand wedge to the range. And I would just work on that consistently, constantly. I would hit, if it was 50 balls I was working on that night, I would hit 50 balls and just work through those 4 or 5 clubs. And I saw that translate really well into my game. I think the reason for that for me was that, greens in regulation is tough. And me being an amateur golfer, it was more around, okay, I might not hit every green. And I'm probably not going to hit 60% of greens. So let's put it that way. Again, this is just where I was at and where I'm at with my golf is if I hit 60% of greens in regulation in a round of golf, I'm pretty happy. So if that's the case, then I've got to try to really be good with a wedge or a 9 iron or a pitching wedge in my hand. I really need to get that proximity to the hole really dialed in as close as I can. And what I mean by that is not getting it 3 feet from the pin, because that's an outlier. The chances of that happening with my capability it wasn't going to happen all that often. Am I capable of doing it? Yes, without a doubt. But again, it's like that, understanding your expectation versus your capability. So it's applying some of that when it came to this as well. So then if that was the case, I knew that I just had to get better with those scoring clubs. When I started to do some of that, I really started to see that translate into my game way more than hitting long irons, hitting the driver 25, 30, 40 balls in a range session, because that just didn't translate as well. Don't get me wrong, hitting long range golf shots are important, but I think for me, it was about, I'll find a way to get the ball 250, 280 meters into the fairway, somewhere down there. I'll find a way off the tee. My next thing is I need to be able to, when things are going really badly, find a way to score and put the ball in the hole. So that was the kind of mentality, but also a practical thing that I started to bring into my game that really translated very well. The next thing was committing to the action and then living with the outcome. I love this way of looking at it because no matter what I was going to do, I had to commit to all the shots that I was going to hit. I would think about how many times that I've just I've stood over a golf ball and I'm maybe 120, 130 meters out. And here in Australia, it's meters. So if you're talking yards, maybe 150, 160, something like that. So I'd be 130 meters out. It's kind of like a 9, 8, in between an 8 or a 9 iron. I'd take an 8 iron, and your mind, when you take less club, is that don't be aggressive. And that's what I used to tell myself is don't be aggressive. And that worked against me so many times because not being aggressive means that I'm not 100% committed to this shot. I'm just not committed to it. So subconsciously, my brain's telling me to slow things down in my backswing, slow things down through my hips and, how I release the club and all this kind of stuff. And that is just going to ruin every single shot. And it did. It ruined so many of my shots, and it still does it because, I completely forget that you've got to be aggressive no matter what the club you choose, because that aggression can be misled into making bad decisions. That's not what this is about. And stay tuned for the next point, because I will talk about knowing the difference of when to go and when not to go, and when to be aggressive and when not to be, because that was a huge shift as well. But I think the ability to get over a shot 130 meters out, whether it is an 8 iron, a 9 iron, a 6, whatever club you would use, a pitching wedge, is just to commit to that shot. And if it's a 3/4 swing, then it's be aggressive with that swing. I did find that there was a difference between being aggressive and trying to hit the ball hard. It's two different things, and this is where golf becomes a real mentally challenging sport to play, because you're now here. I had this side of my head kind of going, man, hit it hard. Sometimes 130, I might go with a pitching wedge. I take the pitching wedge and I'll be like, hit it hard. But on this side of the brain, I've kind of got this thing of, you don't have to hit it hard, just be aggressive. Meaning, pick your spot, be confident with it, commit to it, and make your swing. I think there was that kind of understanding, like, I don't have to go at this thing with everything I've got, because my capability tells me a pitching wedge will get me to 130. Just got to make good contact with the ball. And the way I'm going to do that is by committing, being aggressive, and making a good swing. But I can't do that unless it comes from that mindset of, this is it, I'm going to go after it. The last thing was knowing when to go and when not to go. This newfound aggression and sort of confidence to commit over a golf shot versus I'm standing over a shot and just trying to be aggressive to every single part of the course. And I think some players will like that. Like, they'll pick a spot and just, that's it. I'm just going to go for it. I think what it was for me was, be aggressive to your spots on the course, but don't be silly with, the choices that you make when it came to taking your medicine and kind of getting out of danger. Knowing when to go, when to press your foot down when things are rolling is way different to, kind of being able to, okay, we'll drop this a couple of gears back and let's chip out, let's put ourselves in the next best position. This kind of ebb and flow was really, really important for me to figure out how to manage the course properly and how to really understand my game and apply it and build a game plan and build a game style around what I do best. For me, it was just about understanding my game. I just had to get a better grip on what I was doing well, what I'm not capable of doing, and then becoming a better decision maker by applying all those things. Take some of them, apply them to your game, see if it helps you out. Let me know in the comments section if you've got anything else that you would like help with or any questions around the stuff I've shared with you today. If you enjoyed this, make sure to give me a thumbs up by hitting that like button. Subscribe and hit the bell notification to be notified every time I release new content, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.